Well, the Florida Gators have won the 2023 June recruiting title. That's right, congratulations. Unless you've been hiding under a rock, if you've been anywhere on the internet or social media over the last week or so, I'm sure you're aware, but Florida has crowned themselves the 2023 recruiting champions of the world, which is absolutely hilarious. Now, this happens every single year. Every single offseason we go through this, not with Florida, but with somebody. Last year, was it last year or the year before? It was Texas A&M, remember? Oh my God, Texas A&M's got an amazing recruiting class. Now, Texas A&M had the #1 recruiting class in the nation. Florida doesn't have that, nor will they get it. Sorry, that spot's already locked down for this year by you-know-who. But Texas A&M did this, and, what they promptly went out and won 5 games, and half the recruiting class transferred. Tennessee fans have been doing this for about 15 years, off and on, every single time. Let's not forget, Butch Jones had a top 10 recruiting class, and the Hill Jacks were running around. So this happens, it happens to a different team every couple of years or whatever. The one thing all of these teams have in common, though, they're all terrible. They're all terrible. And it's kind of like when you've been beat down so much, you're willing to just grasp and claw at anything you possibly can. And in the case of the Florida Gators, it's a June recruiting title. I don't know, would they get 4 or 5 commits or something over the last week? Whoopity-doo. It does look like Florida will have a good recruiting class for this coming cycle in 2024. But what does that actually mean? Let's talk about that. What does it actually mean? Well, it doesn't mean anything for this season, right? These are football players that we're talking about will be freshmen next season in 2024. So it means absolutely nothing for this season. So Florida, who is coming off back-to-back losing seasons for the first time in 50 years or whatever, this June recruiting title is not going to help you for this season, where you are staring down the barrel of your 3rd straight losing season in a row. You're going to be absolutely terrible this year. And nothing about this June recruiting title is going to alter, change, or affect that in the slightest bit. In fact, the only player you were targeting for a future recruiting class that you wanted to help you this year gave you one of these and committed to Ole Miss the other day. This 10th grade Doogie Howser quarterback, Austin Simmons, the guy's just finished 10th grade. Florida tried to convince him to re-enroll to 2023. Why? Graham Mertz, that's why. Your quarterback situation is horrendous. So there was one player you were targeting in a future class that could have helped you this year if you could have got him to commit and sign with you. But he gave you one of those and he's at Ole Miss. So no matter what happens in this year's recruiting class, it's not going to affect the reality of 2023, which is the fact that you're just going to be terrible. You are going to be terrible. Most likely worse than last year. Last year you leaned on your running game. A big part of that was Anthony Richardson. He's gone. Now, I know you still have Etienne, and I like him, but your offensive line from last year is gone, too. You're going to have one of the worst offensive lines in the SEC. Your quarterback position is non-existent. You've probably got the worst quarterback room in the SEC. Graham Mertz is your flagship QB. He's a trash can. We've watched him at Wisconsin for 2 years. The guy's terrible. Absolutely horrendous. You got nobody behind him because the #2, which was supposed to be the #1 this year, got arrested for child porn. Then the next guy in line, this Jack Shit or whatever what was his name? Jack Shit, Jack Leg, Jack Miller. He's horrible. We found that out last year. Everyone knows it. You go out, you bring Graham Mertz in. You're going to be terrible. You're going to be absolutely horrendous in 2023. So that's 3 straight losing seasons. Well, what about this freshman class? The one where you got your June recruiting title this year. They come in next year, right? How's that going to help you next year? What do you think you're going to do? Line up 22 freshmen next year? No. 2 or 3 of the guys that you sign in this year's class will have any meaningful impact at all on next season. And here's a news flash and some breaking news and 2 and also. Florida's not 2 or 3 players away from being good. No. No. You're going to play you're going to play Lagway at quarterback next year? I hope to God you do. I hope to God you do. You're probably going to have to. You're probably going to have to, and it could ruin him. It could ruin him. You could ruin DJ Lagway's college career next season before it ever really even has a chance to start in 2024. Your schedule in 2024 is harder than your schedule in 2023. So even if you get a little bit better in 2024, your record's going to be about the same or worse. You're losing to not one, not two, but three different Florida schools next season. That's right, you're going to get humiliated by Florida State at the end of the year. You're going to lose to Miami, who you scheduled in a big non-con game. And guess who else you have on the schedule next year? Central Florida. Gus Malzahn's going to ram his whole fist in dry on Florida next year. You're going to be the worst Power 5 program in the state. You play the other three and you're going to lose to them all. Never mind Georgia. Obviously, you're losing that. You better check the SEC schedule that got released for next season, too. Boy, you start stacking them L's up quick, fast, and in a hurry in 2024. So that's going to be not one, not two, not three, but four losing seasons in a row for Florida. Absolutely embarrassing. Just completely humiliating. And any momentum that you think you're getting from this current recruiting class, boy, the air is going to be let out of that balloon when you fall on your face again this year. Next year's recruiting class won't stack up to this one. The recruits are going to start looking at the results on the field. You can only sell the idea to recruits that, hey, we're a new coaching staff, we're building something, we're heading in the right direction. You can only do that for so long, 1, maybe 2 years at the most. You can't keep having losing seasons over and over again and expect recruits to keep falling for the same banana in the tailpipe routine, which is what's happening with this year's recruiting class. It's as simple as that. I don't know what to tell you. Here's some reality for the Florida fans who really need a big dose of reality right now because they're getting way too loud about this June recruiting title. But here's some reality for you Florida fans. You've been in the SEC since 1933. That's 90 years. You've been in the SEC for 90 years, okay? It took you 60 years, 60, to win your first SEC title, which you won in 1991. From 1933 to 1991, you were an absolute trash can, toilet bowl, poverty, irrelevant program for 60 years. Then, to your credit, you had a good run. From 91 to 08, you had a good run. A 17-year stretch. 18 seasons, I guess that is, if you add it up. But from 2009 to now, nothing again. The last 15 years, 0 SEC titles. The first almost 60 years, 0 SEC titles. Outside of that 17-year stretch, 18 seasons from 1991 to 2008, outside of that small sample size, Florida is nothing but Vandy with uglier uniforms. That's it. The Florida Commodores. Almost 60 years, no SEC titles. No SEC titles the last 15 years. A good 17, 18 season run from 91 to 08. Congratulations. That is the literal definition of a flash in the pan program. A literal flash in the pan program. That's it. Now you're back to your irrelevancy where you belong. The Florida Commodores. Florida, been playing football for almost 100 years. 0. Not one. Not a single perfect season in 100 years of football. Tied with Vandy in that category. The Florida Commodores. Currently on a 1-game losing streak to Vandy. Wow. The Florida Commodores. And Georgia's about to beat the absolute soul and will to live out of you yet again in 2023. And Uncle Lou's going to be right here laughing all the way. But hey, other than that, though, hope you have a good morning.